and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you 6 of my best tips for tomorrow's racing. Now, before we get stuck into them, quickly just want to go through a couple of things with you. Now, first of all, if you haven't done so already, make sure you check out the latest episode of the In the Saddle podcast, where I was joined by the dream team of Katie Clements, Mark Karofsky and Paul Callahan. We sat down and we were speaking on our thoughts on this weekend's racing. Lots of great racing up and down the country taking place at Ascot, Haydock, Wincanton, and also as well we've got the reorganised Betfair hurdle meeting at Newbury on Sunday, and we cover all those races, all the main races there. So if you want to listen to it, there'll be links to it in the description box below, including the likes of Soundcloud, iTunes and Spotify. So whichever one takes your fancy, just make sure you hit one of the links in the description box below. Also as well, I quickly just want to reflect on how our selections ran today. Again, it was another very disappointing day as none of our selections were very competitive at all. The nap blame the game for Chris Gordon was disappointing. We knew our fate quite early on. I don't think maybe the track suited him. Fakenham is always a bit of a speed track, you know, it's quite a sharp track, but yeah, it just didn't suit him at all today. So that was very frustrating there. Duke de Gressy, I thought he was going along quite nicely, and I thought at one point Brian Hughes was quite confident that he had the race in the bag because he looked to be travelling very well. But in the end, he just couldn't find anything for pressure, and his tank quickly emptied, so that was a little bit frustrating there. And then the long shot of the day, yes, I know he drifted out to 50-1, but that didn't concern me at all. To be fair, he actually travelled okay for a lot of the way, but in the end he just didn't have the gears to go with the main two, and yeah, finished back in the middle of the pack. So yeah, very frustrating day today, and on how it has been frustrating last week or so, to be honest with you. We haven't had any winners. We've had a few hard luck stories, a few horses that have hit the crossbar. Yesterday was a bit of a frustrating day as we had 2 close calls, especially as well with my nap. But that's the way it goes. We had a great start to the month in February, and it means that we are still in profit, but hopefully we can turn the corner and start a winning streak, which hopefully will start this weekend, where, like I said earlier, we've got some great racing to look forward to. So let's get into it then. 6 tips for tomorrow's racing, and I really do fancy quite a lot tomorrow, so hopefully we can have some winners. We're going to be starting tomorrow with my next best, which is going to be running in the 150, the Reynoldstown Chase at Ascot, Grade 2, over 3 miles. Now, my next best of the day here is going to be a horse called Remastered for Tom Scudamore and David Pipe. This horse is currently available at 4-1 with bookmakers at the moment, and I'm going to recommend a 1-point win bet. Now, this horse, he's 2 out of 2 over fences so far, and he's done nothing wrong, and he's looked better probably going over fences, to be honest with you. He was always a fair handicapper when it came to hurdles. He won some decent contests and made the frame in some decent valuable handicaps as well. So yeah, he's not been a bad horse during his career, but ever since he's gone over fences, he just looks like such a natural, you know. And to be honest, I think he's got a cracking chance in this race tomorrow. He's got a rating of 138, but to be honest, this race isn't a particularly strong renewal of this race this year. We normally see a classy type. There could be a classy type emerge, but to be honest with you, there's not that many in here. They're very similar ratings. I think Severano is the top rated on ratings. He's got a rating of 147, but I couldn't have him tomorrow. I thought he was very disappointing the last day, and I'll be concerned about his stamina. But Remastered, I think, will really appreciate the slog. He won in heavy ground last time at Wetherby. Yes, I know it was a 2-runner race, but he did the job really well, and in the end was quite an easy winner, beating No Mug in Baron de Middleton. So it wasn't a bad run there. And also as well, his 2.5 mile win at Carlisle was a nice victory too in testing conditions. So a lot to like about his chances tomorrow. He'll be up there with the pace, and I think he could be a horse that might be able to develop into a kind of Welsh national type in time. You know, I could see him doing very well in some big staying handicap chases, and I just think at 4-1 tomorrow, I think he's not a bad price there, and I think a few others might get supported, which means he could maybe drift out to a slightly bigger price, and if he did, that wouldn't concern me at all. You know, I think he's got really solid credentials, and I think he'll have all the experience and know-how to get the job done in this war of attrition. So for me, Remastered, he's going to be my next best of the day, and I'm going to recommend a 1-point win bet to kick off proceedings. We then go to Haydock for an extra tip, which runs in the 205, the Rendlesham hurdle, the last Stairs hurdle trial, or one of the last recognised ones anyway, on this side of the Irish Sea, and not a bad looking race tomorrow. But I thought Third Wind was worth a chance here. You can currently back him at 7-1 with bookmakers at the moment. That price at the time recording was available at Bet365, and I'm going to recommend a 0.5 each way selection here for Tom O'Brien and Hughie Morrison. Now this horse, Third Wind, he never runs a bad race. He ran some decent races last year, including a 4th place effort in the Patomps final at the Cheltenham Festival. Obviously that was quite a good renewal of the race last year, as you had the Storyteller and also as well Cider Burley finishing the first 2 that day. So yeah, it was a good contest in that race, and Third Wind didn't discredit himself at all. Subsequently this season, I think his form has taken another step in the right direction. Arguably his best effort so far was a 2nd place effort behind Main Fact in the Grade 3 stay-in handicap hurdle at the November meeting here, when he just finished 2nd to Main Fact. But that day it was a handicap and he had to give Main Fact a pound in the weights. Now tomorrow he's going to be meeting Main Fact on slightly better terms. Main Fact is going to have to give him £4, so there's quite a bit of a swing at the weights there, so that's definitely a positive for Third Wind. But also as well, the fact that it will like the course too, that was a really good run, like I said, on his best form this season at Haydock, and I think if he replicates that, he can go quite close. He then ran a respectable race. Okay, he was outclassed in the Grade 1 long walk hurdle at Ascot, but the form of that race obviously looks pretty good. Roxana was an easy winner on her next start, so it wasn't a bad race at all, and I think in this contest tomorrow he can go quite well. On the blind side, will definitely go close, I think, but you've got the likes of Itchy Feet in here that have question marks. Will he stay the trip? And also as well, he's coming back over hurdles. Emma Tom as well is a horse that I find it really hard to get a handle on, and it's going to be the first time we've seen him in a while. There's just a few in here that have got question marks over them, where I think Third Wind, like I said, he's normally ultra consistent, and I think in a race of this nature he will go really close. There's currently the 8 runners at the moment, so we get 3 places for each way betting, and I'm going to recommend him like I said earlier, 0.5 each way bet, because I find it really hard to see him finishing out the frame. So he's going to be one of my extra tips for tomorrow's racing. We then move to my long shot of the day, which runs in the 225 at Ascot, the Swinley Chase, and I'm going to be going with Sub Lieutenant here as my long shot of the day. You can currently back him at the time recording at 40-1 with Paddy Power and Betfair. They're paying 4 places on this race, and I'm going to recommend a 0.5 each way selection. Now, Tabifa Worsley is riding tomorrow on this horse, claiming a handy £5 off his back, and she's going to be riding for Georgie Howe. Now, I don't know too much about Georgie Howe, but this is definitely a really interesting horse for her, as she's brought him from Henry de Bromhead's yard, an ex-Jickenstown cast-off. But to be fair, this horse ran an absolute blinder, I think, on his stable debut last time out at Ascot, over the course and distance, behind the likes of Mr. Malarkey, the conditional, Regal Encore, who's a course specialist, where he didn't discredit himself at all. He finished 4th, but he wasn't too far beaten, and he made a lot of the running that day. Also as well, it was his first run for a little while, and I think he'll come forward for that. I think he'll be in a better place. He does have a Grand National entry, so it'll be interesting to see if that is the long-term target. He came over to the UK with a rating of 147. He was actually dropped £1 for that run at Ascot, but like I said, I think it was a better run than the bare form suggests. It was a good performance that day, and I think he'll be in a better place tomorrow. Also as well, if you go back through his last Irish run, actually, funnily enough, when he ran at Galway, he wasn't discredited at all when he finished 2nd to the Storyteller, and he beat a horse of Willie Mullins called Live Love Laugh. Now, we saw Live Love Laugh run a good race at the Dublin Racing Festival a couple of weeks ago, but the form behind the Storyteller is really good, because the Storyteller has run some cracking races this season. He won the Grade 1 chase at Down Royal at the November meeting there. Also as well, he ran really well in the Irish Gold Cup to finish 2nd. Also as well, I think he ran in the 3-mile hurdle at the Christmas meeting at Leopardstown too, where he finished 2nd, if I remember, staying on really strongly. He's got a lot of good form next to his name, the Storyteller, and he's in the best form of his career. So Sub-Lieutenant, he was only 9 lengths behind him that day, and what's the Storyteller rated? At least a mid-160 horse. So I don't think Sub-Lieutenant has lost his class at all, and I think if Georgie Howe has brought him forward from that last run, I think he still has a lot to offer, still at the age of 12, and if he can get into a good handy position tomorrow, I think this horse has got a cracking chance. Also as well, the race will probably most likely cut up. There could be maybe a small rule 4, because Not a Chance will be most likely heading to Haydock tomorrow, but a lot of horses in here looked quite exposed to me. Regal Encore will probably run his normal solid race, but he's a little bit high in the weights now, and he is getting on a little bit. Also as well, the likes of Coda Lobo, I thought, even though he has been improving this season, I think the handicap has got him. So with a few of the others as well. I know on the podcast I said I did like Jerry's back, but for me, I think he's a little bit too short now. I preferred him when he was around about the 5-1, 6-1 kind of mark. But the fact he's shortened in the bet, and I'm not quite sure about him now, so I would like to take something at a bigger price. And I just think Sub-Lieutenant at 40-1 is actually not a bad pick, and you could do worse picking a 40-1 outsider. So he's going to be my long shot of the day tomorrow. And fingers crossed we can get a good run for our money, and he can at least make the frame. So that's going to be my long shot of the day there. We then go to the Somerset venue at Wincanton with an extra tip in the 3:58, and I'm going to be going with a horse here called Buckthorn George for Harry Kimber, claiming a handy £7 off the horse's back, riding for Colin Tizard. Now, Colin Tizard's stable have been coming into a little bit of form in the last couple of weeks. It looks like they might have turned a little bit of the corner, but to be fair to this horse, Buckthorn George, he's been running really well this season. He's finished second on his last few starts, including a second place effort over the course and distance last time out when he bumped into the horse of David Pipes called Brinkley. Brinkley we saw last week win one of the Patomps qualifiers at Exeter really impressively off a mark of 140. And Buckthorn George, yes, he was beaten about, I think it was 9 lengths in the end that day, but he didn't discredit himself at all, and he just bumped into one. Now, he's a horse that likes to be handy, he's a course winner, and he likes heavy ground. There's going to be a lot in his favour tomorrow, but the handicapper does look like he might have him. He's been a solid yardstick off a mark of 125, and the handicapper has kept him there. But Harry Kimber taking £7 off tomorrow. He's not a bad conditional jockey at all. He's been with Colin a couple of years now. He's done me a couple of good turns over the years, especially as well when I remember he gave us a couple of winners about a year or so ago when he was claiming 10 for Colin. But yeah, there's lots to like about this horse tomorrow, and I just think the £7 could make all the difference. And if he can get into a good handy position, I think he's got a cracking chance. And I'm going to be recommending a 0.5 each way selection there as one of my extra tips of the day, and you could get that price with SkyBet, who are offering 4 places on the race. So he's going to be, like I said, one of my extra tips. We then go to my nap of the day, and if you've already listened to the In the Saddle podcast, you most likely know what it is, and it runs in the 4:10 at Ascot tomorrow, and it's a horse called Flight Deck for John Joe O'Neill Jr. riding for his dad, John Joe O'Neill, in the colours of JP McManus. Now, this horse, I was really impressed by his win last time out at Bangor-on-Dee, when he won very impressively that day. The handicapper did raise him £6 for that win, but he was really impressive in the closing stages. That was over 2.5 miles, but he stayed on really strongly with his ears pricked at the line, and it was in really heavy ground, and I think his battling attitude will serve him in really good stead tomorrow. Like I said, the handicapper has had his stay, but he's still, in my opinion, very unexposed over hurdles. And even though he hasn't raced over 3 miles yet in his career, there's plenty of hope that he'll be able to get it no problem, because his dam won, or she didn't win, but she made the frame in the Kent National at Folkestone when that was a race course nearly 10 years ago now. It was actually trained by John Joe O'Neill. And like I said, with that stamina and the pedigree, you think going up and trip won't be a bad move at all, and I think he could still have quite a bit in hand off his mark. Go back and watch that race replay. I think it was a really impressive effort. He's currently available with bookmakers at 4-1 at the moment. I think he could be an absolute good thing and a shoe-in in this handicap, and for me, I think he'll take all the beating in the 4:10 at Ascot, and that's why I'm putting him up as my nap of Saturday, and I'm going to recommend a 1-point win bet there. We then go back to Wincanton for an extra tip. This one is a bit of a flyer in the 4:33, but I thought Royal Vacation was on a really interesting mark for Harry Kimber, who again is claiming 7, and Colin Tizard. Now, this horse has run a couple of stinkers so far this season, but he's 20-1 tomorrow, and I'm going to recommend a 0.5 win bet on him. But I just thought this race, there's quite a few exposed types in here, and a few of them have got question marks. So has Royal Vacation, but he's now down to a really low mark now, off a mark of 139, and plus with Harry Kimber's £7 claim, in essence, he's going to be running off a mark of 132, and I think returning to Wincanton is a really interesting move. The last time we saw him run at the track, he actually ran a really respectable race in the Badger Beers behind Give Me a Copper back in 2019. That was off a higher mark than he's going to be running off tomorrow, so a lot to like about his chances, I think, tomorrow at a price. He'll be handy, he'll be up there with the running, and I think he'll go very close in this race. Also as well, if you go back long enough through the form book, he's actually a Grade 1 winner. He picked up the pieces when Mike Bite fell in the Quarter Star Novices Chase back in 2016, you know, so he's always been a classy horse for the Tizzards. He owes them absolutely nothing, but I still think he might have another day in him, and tomorrow could be that day with Harry Kimber claiming that £7. I just thought there was a lot to like about him, and just with a saver bet there, I think it's 20 to 1. You could find worse 20 to 1 shots, really, to be honest with you. So that's why he is going to be an extra tip, and he rounds off my final selection of the day. So quickly then, let's just recap the 6 selections for tomorrow's racing. And the 150 at Ascot, we go with Remastered as my next best of the day. We're going to recommend a 1-point win bet there. We then go to Haydock for the Rendlesham Hurdle in the 205 with a horse called Third Wind. He's an extra tip, 7 to 1, 0.5 each way bet. We then go back to Ascot for the 225 with my long shot of the day, Sub Lieutenant, 40 to 1, 0.5 each way bet. 4 places available, being advertised, the extra places there with Betfair and Paddy Power at that price. We then wait a little while for the 358 at Wincanton with a horse called Buckthorn George. He's an extra tip of the day, 11 to 2, 0.5 each way selection, 4 places available with SkyBet at that price. We then go the nap of the day, which runs in the 410 at Ascot. That's Flight Deck. 4 to 1, 1-point win bet as the nap, and then in the 433 at Wincanton, an extra tip to close proceedings. In the 433 at Wincanton, a Royal Vacation, 20 to 1, 0.5 win bet. So they're the 6 tips for tomorrow's racing. If you're enjoying these videos, please remember to hit the subscribe button, and also as well hit the thumbs up button. I really appreciate all the support you give me despite our little barren spell at the moment. Hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow. Also as well, if you want to follow me on social media, you can do, where the best place to do is on Twitter, where my handle is at LuckyLoader15. And if you want to find out a little bit more about myself, my website address is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk. So please game responsibly. Hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow, and we'll be seeing you soon.